साग्रजातम् सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं स्वावधूतं परिजनासाहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितंश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुस्तुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा।
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shashwin, for the wonderful Mangalacharan. Now, till Mataji joins, we can start off by reading the verse. Hare Krishna. We are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, second chapter. Verse for today is 31. So, Shashwin, would you be able to read the verse?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतेत्तमश्लोके भक्ति भवति नैष्टिकी। हरे कृष्ण। तेनात्मनात्मानमुपैति शान्तम् आनन्दमानन्दमयोऽवसाने एतां गतिं भागवतीं गतो सवै पुनर्नेह विसर्जते नित्या।
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Can I read, Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna. Yes. Mataji, Radhika Kasturi Mataji has joined just now.
Okay.
Mataji,
Okay.
Mataji, Dandavat Pranams. Please accept our humble obeisances. All goes to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranams, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Mataji, we have just done the Mangalacharan and read the Sanskrit verse. So, can we hand over to you, Mataji?
Sure. I know it's a big purport, so maybe we
Yes.
can go through that purport in the class. It's a good segue, so we can get started.
Okay.
Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prachari Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Srinuvata Swagata Krishna Punya Shravana Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Sugritsatam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. Hare Krishna. So we will be continuing our Srimad Bhagavatam, second chapter, second canto. So we will try to go through a few verses from previous classes, and then we can get into today's verse. We will see how much time we have. Based on that, we can definitely prioritize. All right, dear devotees, we can get started now. So we will do a recap as usual, and then we will get to some of the verses that we have not seen. As you all know, this chapter is titled "The Lord Within the Heart." Primarily Prabhupada, he gives this title because in this chapter there is a description of super soul which is meditated upon by an advanced yogi. So we have been discussing from, Parikshit Maharaj at the end of first canto asked this question: what is the topmost attainment of humanity and what is the means to attain that? And our Srila Sukadev Goswami, starting from the second chapter, second canto, he starts to describe how it is bhakti, that is Shravana Kirtana Smaranatmika bhakti is the topmost process. But he also mentions that there are other people who have other opinions. Some people think the topmost goal is to attain Sahaja Mukti, and the means to attain that goal is the path of yoga. So, in order to establish now how this process, that is Sahaja Mukti, is not the topmost, but Bhakti is the topmost. With that in the mind, he describes the path of yoga for one who wants to attain Sahaja Mukti. So now we discussed about there are two kinds of yogis. The yogis who have one goal, which is just Sahaja Mukti. So such people, they perform Ashtanga Yoga, and they obviously do the preliminary limbs of the Ashtanga Yoga, such as Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, and Pratyahara. And then when the mind and the senses are fairly controlled, they meditate upon the Paramatma form of the Lord, Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. This is the process they go through. And when they attain the Samadhi, then at that time, they have reached the stage of Brahmabhuta or Labdopashanti. And at that stage of being a Jivan Mukta, they perform what is called Shadchakra Yoga, where they block all the 9 holes and force the Jiva escape through what? Brahmarandra. So this is what we have seen, dear devotees. We all discussed about it, and we have a fairly good idea of what this yogi is up to. So he now forces the jiva to escape through Brahmarandra. And now he has also described the Virat, that is the first kind of yogi, right? How he meditates on the Paramatma form of the Lord. So how this Paramatma meditating yogi attains the direct mukti, that is sadhyo mukti. The mukti means giving up of the subtle body. That is why at the Brahma Bhuta stage, he is a Jivan Mukta because he is a Mukta. He is detached himself from the subtle body. Then he gives up the gross body by the process of Shatchakra Yoga, and he enters into the Brahma Jyoti. This is what is called Sadhyo Mukti or direct Mukti. So hope you're all able to understand, dear devotees. We are talking about the Paramatma meditating yogi. What he does, he wants to attain this direct Mukti. That is Sadhyo Mukti. Mukti means what? Giving up of the subtle body. Okay, that is why what happens at the Brahma Bhuta stage, he is called the Jivan Mukta because he is Mukta. He is already detached from his subtle body. Then he gives up the gross body by what? By the process of Shadchakra Yoga. And then he directly enters into the Brahma Jyoti, where we saw this yogi, he blocks the 9 holes and forces the jiva to escape through the Brahmarandra, right? This is direct mukti. Then the other type of yogi, also has liberation as his primary goal, but he also has some secondary material goals which he wishes to fulfill before attaining this process of liberation. So these yogis, they meditate on the Virat form of the Lord. The form of the Virat is described in what chapter? The first chapter. We saw the various planetary systems occupy the various bodies of the Supreme Lord, and how various devatas, various varnas, various ashramas, various qualities that are seen in the material world, how they occupy the various limbs of the Supreme Lord, all that was described. That's all imaginary, of course, imaginary form. But if the Virat root meditating yogi happens to meditate on the limbs of the Lord, what happens by this process is they will give up their secondary abhilashas or desires that they have eventually. And then when they are qualified, they will start to meditate upon the Paramatma form of the Lord and then attain what is called Sadhyamukti. Dear devotees, it is very clear that this devotee, Virat form, who meditates on the Virat form, eventually he will get purified and then he will be eligible to meditate on the Paramatma form of the Lord. And when he starts to meditate on the Paramatma form of the Lord, that is when there is a chance for this yogi to go and merge into the Brahma Jyoti. Hope you're clear with that point. But there are some people whose heart is not purified, even by the practice of meditating on the Virat form of the Lord. So how these kind of yogis, how they attain liberation? That is, they attain liberation by the process of what is called krama mukti or gradual mukti. So this is what we have been seeing. So this Virat meditating yogi, they attain liberation through the process of what is called krama mukti. Now, Sukadev Goswami, he says, if one doesn't just have liberation as the goal, but additionally, if he has the desire of checking out other planetary systems, what kind of enjoyment is there out of curiosity? Not that he wants to settle there. He's definitely curious. I want to check out, like a window shopping, right? I want to go there. I want to see how it is. So if he has such a desire, while the Paramatma meditating yogi is completely detached from anything, any enjoyment of this material world, when he gives up the body, when he gives up the subtle body also, because he doesn't need the subtle body. Why do we need subtle body, dear devotees? Anybody wants to answer this question? Why do we need subtle body?
Hare Krishna Mataji. So
Yes.
we have our karma. We have to enjoy or pay for the karma that we have. So that's why we have this material body, isn't it?
Yes, of course, it is there. This material body is given to us because we have to go through our karma. But from a living entity's perspective, if there is no subtle body, where is the point of enjoyment, right? I mean, I'm eating a rasagulla. If I don't feel the taste of the rasagulla, and if I don't feel that, oh, my mind is the one which is filled with emotions. It is a repository of emotions. It is telling me, yes, it is good, it is nice, this, that. All these emotions are coming from the mind. If I don't have a subtle body, then where am I to enjoy? How am I to enjoy? I'll
So
be a
also,
jada, isn't it?
I think we need this subtle body kind of vehicle for the soul, because the soul needs a body, no?
Yes. So my question is, it's more so to, if the subtle body is not there, the point here that I'm trying to address is, if the subtle body is not there, then there is no question of feeling. See, this body is given to us. Of course, we know we are not this body, and again, we are not this grass body. We are not the subtle body. But what eventually happens when a situation comes is that we identify with the subtle body. We identify with the qualities of the mind. If the mind thinks, yes, I'm a CEO of the company, I'm the managing director, then you go into that position and become that, and you forget you are the soul or servant of Krishna. So eventually, the point I'm driving to here is, without the subtle body, you will not be able to have any sense of enjoyment. Now, as a contrast, if you look at this Paramatma meditating yogi, he is detached from anything and everything this material world has to offer. So when he gives up his body, he gives up the subtle body also because he doesn't need the subtle body to enjoy this material world. Whereas, see, here is the contrast I'm bringing. Whereas the secondary inferior yogi who has material goals, he needs subtle body to enjoy the things. So along with the subtle body, subtle body constitutes the mind, intelligence, false ego. We know the subtle senses he carries from this inferior yogi, he carries from one planet to another. He needs the subtle body because he needs all of that to enjoy. Hope you're able to understand this point, dear devotees. With regards to Paramatma meditating yogi, he's detached from everything. He's not worried about the enjoyment that this material world has to offer and he has to enjoy and all that. That is why he's able to give up his subtle body.
So
And the
Mataji,
gross body is given up through this process of Shat Chakra Yoga. Yes, go ahead, Mataji. I'm
yes,
sorry.
sorry. So the yogi who is meditating on the Virat Roop, he has a subtle body then.
Correct. He has the subtle body through which he is going from one planet to another to enjoy the subtleties that planet has to offer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We will
Yes.
be seeing
Thank
more
you. Thank
now.
you, Mataji.
Yes, yes. So now, so he practices, he goes through gradual liberation. So this is called Krama Mukti. Krama Mukti means gradual liberation. Sadhya Mukti is direct liberation. This is the difference again. So liberation means what does one get liberated from? One gets liberated from material desires, material impressions which are stored in the subtle body. So essentially, liberation means getting rid of the subtle body. Because this, because here, this particular yogi, inferior yogi, he has some material desires, which is what he wants to check out. He wants to check out. He definitely wants to go and check out these planets before giving them up. So therefore, he is attaining what is called gradual liberation or Krama Bhukti. It is also called Brahma Pada or path of Brahma Loka, where one of the final destinations in this material universe is the abode of Brahma. This is also called Achiradi Marga. So Achiradi Marga means a path where the path of liberation, where the final destination is Archi, the planet of Archi or planet of fire. In Bhagavatam's language, it's also called Vaishwanara Loka, like that. So he says another important point is that these Kramamuktas are not outright materialists. People who want to outright materialists are those who want, whose only goal is to enjoy this material world. No, these people are not like that. These people are very, very advanced yogis. And they attain they go to these different planets, various planets, not based on the strength of karma. Point to be noted. They go to the various abodes. They do not attain these various abodes on the strength of karma. Unlike the ordinary materialistic people who perform piety, on the strength of piety, they go to the various planets, right? If they want to go to Swarga, they perform that piety or gain that punya and go to Swarga. These people, they do not go on based on the strength of the karma. Okay, these people, they are proper practitioners of yoga. They practice the yoga. There are not only the element of, they practice yoga meaning, obviously there is an element of karma till, till they are in the neophyte stage. They are asked to perform their varnashrama duties. Then they perform the element of Ashtanga yoga. There is also element of jnana and then element of bhakti also. Without bhakti, nothing is going to work. On the strength of performing these, they go to the various planets. Therefore, it is not, this principle of Shine Punye Matya Lokam Shanti, right? When the piety is lost, they will come back to Bhuloka. This principle, it doesn't apply to these yogis. They go there royally. When they enter the planetary system, the in charge of this planetary system, Adhishtati Devata of that planetary system comes, personally receives them and gives them all kinds of facilities and enjoyment for them. And they are asked to stay however long they want. And once they are convinced, oh, that yogi, he himself is convinced, yes, I'm done. My curiosity is fulfilled. I'm ready to move on. So when they move on, they give up that level of desires, and that part of the subtle body is also given up. So their subtle body, as we spoke earlier, becomes subtle and subtle and subtle when they leave from one planet to the next planet. And when they are ready to move to the next planet, what happens? The Adhishtati Devata escorts them to the next planet, and then they hand over to the Adhishtati Devata of that planetary system. The Adhishtati Devata of that next planetary system, he receives this person, he receives this yogi royally and facilitates all their enjoyment. This is what happens, dear devotees. Principle of piety getting over, no, this doesn't apply to these people. They do not attain these planets. Again, I tell you, not based on the strength of their karma. They attain these places because they properly follow not only the path of karma, they follow the path of yoga, which also has an element of bhakti. Okay, so the point to be noted here is that they go to these places on the strength, not just based, they do not go to these places on the strength of their piety alone. So then he says, there are various people, the planets, and they pass through as described. First is Vaishwanara Loka, then Shushumna Nadi, and then Shushumna constellation. So there are various planets they go through, and the subtler and subtler and subtler levels of material enjoyment they happen to experience. So they go to one to another, and when they go from one planet to a next planet, they give up that desire to enjoy. That level of desire that planetary system has to offer, they give up that desire. I have enjoyed it all. There is no more desire. Let me go to the next and see what the next place has to offer. So they move on. Hope you are able to understand this point. And after surpassing the navel of Vishnu, which is the Shishumna constellation, with their subtle body, very, very subtle body, because obviously for these people, the gross desires are completely given up. Okay, only subtle desires are there, and that is also given up slowly. This when they attain the Sushumna constellation, the subtle body is very, very, it has become pure already, and they arrive after that. They arrive after Swarga. They reach the Makar Loka, and Makar Loka they start enjoying even more subtle desires, and then the night of Brahma arises. When the night of Brahma arises from Patala to Swarga, what happens? Everything is destroyed by the fire emanating from the mouth of Anantasesh, who is holding these 14 planetary systems. So there, the fire is emanating from the mouth of Ananta, which burns the planets till Swarga. And when Swarga gets burnt, immediately what happens? The Swarga people, they try to, the people go to the upper planetary system. So gradually from Makarloka to Janaloka, eventually they reach Satyaloka. So this is what happens, where obviously in order to reach these planets, flying vehicles are there to reach Brahmaloka. So after this, he desires out of curiosity to stay there until the end of Brahma. So now this person, he reaches Brahmaloka, and out of curiosity, he wants to be there at the end of Brahma, till the end of day of Brahma. Then he may stay, and at the end of the day of Brahma, you know what will happen? If he could, at the end of day of Brahma, obviously, if this person, uh, uh, if this person wants, he could go out of the Brahmaloka and directly merge into the Brahman, that is Brahma Jyoti, right? This is a possibility. So we know from the fact that Sukadev Goswami is continuing. Yes, he has the option to go to Brahma Jyoti and merge with the Brahma Jyoti. This is an option which is possible. Or, obviously, if he comes across a pure devotee, there is also a chance for him to elevate, okay? But that is not being spoken here. So, obviously, this is what is happening. So, this person, he eventually attains this destination of Brahmaloka, and from the Brahmaloka, if he wants to stay there to the end of the life of Brahma, he stays there, and then he has an option to merge in the Brahma Jyoti from there. So, the abode of Brahma is being described. In the Brahma Loka, obviously there is no lamentation, there is no old age, there is no death. They don't die there. It's not like at the end of the day of Brahma's life, he will automatically attain. It's not a guarantee that he will automatically attain liberation. This is not guaranteed even for Brahma. What to speak about the residents of Satyaloka? It's not a guarantee, right? Because you need to perfect the process in order to go and merge into Brahma Jyoti. So if people have in the Brahma Loka are following through the process of sadhana, then they will be able to merge into the Brahman and attain liberation. Obviously, this is again depending upon varies from individual to individual. So now Lord Shiva, he tells the Prachetas in the fourth canto that if one perfectly follows the sattvic dharmic life for 100 lifetimes, then he can become Brahma. So this is a prerequisite for Brahma. And on that Brahma, it is not necessary that he should be qualified for jnana. An extraordinary qualification on the platform of karma is a prerequisite to become Brahmaji. But additionally, Brahmaji has to be qualified to perform the platform of jnana. And once he perfects the path of jnana, he may attain liberation. That is at the time of death. This is a possibility. And if he has perfected the path of bhakti, the current Brahma, we all know at the end of the life, he will go back to the spiritual world. But if he has neither perfected bhakti or neither perfected jnana, he remains on the platform of karma, then Brahma has to come back. He will enter into the body of Brahma, Mahavishnu at the time of Pralaya, and during the next creation, he will again take the birth in this material world. So there is no guarantee that even Brahma at the end of his life is guaranteed liberation. There's nothing like that. Brahma also can give birth again. So therefore, uh, obviously in Brahmaloka, it means everyone lives there for 100 years. And at the time of 100 years, Satyaloka itself will get destroyed. So then from there, the qualified living entities, they will attain liberation. They may attain liberation. But if they are not qualified, then they go and merge into the body of Mahavishnu. So either ways, they don't die in one sense in Satyaloka. Therefore, there is no death there, they're saying, right? There is no suffering, no fear, except in the suffering of the mind. Why there is suffering in the mind? Because they are seeing they are so compassionate and they are able to see the suffering of the people, in general. So there is no suffering in Kali Yuga for that matter. And when they see the suffering in the lower planetary systems, these people have suffering in the mind because of their compassion. That's what is mentioned by Sri Lakshmana Chakravarti Thakura. Of course, this is all relative, dear devotees. So we need to understand that, relative meaning compared to the Bhuloka people, Brahmaloka people don't have much fear. Meaning, again, these guys are also influenced by time. 100 years for them is a very, very long time compared to 100 years in Buloka, right? So obviously, it's the fear, the death part, everything is relative. So hope you're able to understand. Of course, he's also afraid of death in the sense he's also under the influence of time. But again, from a relative standpoint, there is, compared to Bhuloka, there's no fear, things like that. There's no fear of time or death or anything of that sort. So to the point, Vishnu Chakravarti clarifies there is suffering of the mind due to compassion. Seeing the influence of insurmountable suffering, this material people, the people living in the material planet have to go through. They feel compassionate, right? When people do not accept this path and they are suffering and they see people suffer, again, not that everyone has accepted a path. Even in Satyaloka, not that everybody is a pure devotee and they have accepted this path. It's quite possible that many living entities in Bhuloka are actually more fortunate than people in Satyaloka, because here there is a good chance of resident in Bhuloka to come across a pure devotee and get bhakti due to his mercy. But in case of Satyaloka, obviously the rarity is there. So, there is a contrast, compare and contrast to say people in Bhuloka are fortunate than the people of Satyaloka or any other planetary systems. That is why Prabhupada always says he doesn't encourage people to go to other planetary systems. If you are going to stay in Bhuloka, might as well practice bhakti, get perfected in bhakti, and go into the spiritual world. That is the path where you don't come back. Be it Satyaloka or Swarga, it's all the same. Why should we artificially try to go there? So this is the point, dear devotees. As far as Brahmaloka or any other planet, we as devotees, we are not very curious to know about those planets. And here there is a description. There is also a price of the compassion of the inhabitants of Satyaloka, right? These guys, they feel really bad. The people, inhabitants of Satyaloka, they look at the lower planetary systems, how people are so suffering, and they feel compassionate for them. So either ways, the point here is that now after Satyaloka, there is two options. If you want to just relax in Satyaloka till Pralaya time, till the time of Brahmaji's death, the Kramamuktas, they can relax there in Satyaloka. But if he feels enough, I think I want to move on to my ultimate goal. If he feels like that, then he's going to leave Satyaloka. After that, what happens to this person? Once he leaves Satyaloka, what will happen to this person is being described in the 28th verse. These are all very, very technical dear devotees. I hope I'm able to convey my point. So as we go through these chapters, I'm trying to do some recaps so that everybody is able to understand the flow. But again, we understand the overall intention here is to prove the point that our bhakti is superior. And that is why we are going through this exercise of how the Kramamuktas, they go from one to another, and then they get rid of the subtle desires that they have, leave that part of the subtle desire in that planet, and then they move on to the next planet, leave that subtle desire there, then they move on. Now they reach the Brahmaloka, and the option in Brahmaloka is either they can stay with Brahmaji till Pralaya and be there with Brahmaji, or the option is they can just say, yes, I'm done with the enjoyment here in Satyaloka also. I need to move on. And when they say, I need to move on, what is the proposed path for them? So we understand there is an outer layer of the universe. Again, with regards to the fifth canto, I'm not at all an expert. I just I don't think I'm very good in imagining topography or anything of that sort. So, but we will try to do this exercise as it's mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. So we understand outside of the universe, around the universe, there are 8 layers: earth, water, fire, air, ether. These 5 elemental layers are there, and there is a layer of ahankar, and there is a layer of mahatattva, and there is layer of pradhan or prakriti. So these 8 layers, they are each 8, they are 10 times, it seems, thicker than the previous layer. So now this yogi, he's ready. He crosses the Satyaloka. So he will have to cross these 8 layers, it seems. You're able to understand what the 8 layers are, dear devotees. They have the 5 elemental layers. First is earth, water, fire, air, ether. And then he would have to go through this layer of ahankar, and then mahatattva, prakriti. And only when he is able to cross these 8 layers, that is when he will be able to reach the Brahmajyoti. So first he reaches the layer of earth. Okay, so Nirbhaya, he is very much without any fear. At each layer, when he reaches the layer of earth, he gets a body perfectly suited for relishing the sense of smell, it seems. So earth is the sense of smell, right? And then he says, I am satisfied. Then he gives up that earthly body and moves on to the next layer, that is water. Okay, here he crosses the layer of earth, he reaches the layer of water with his watery body. And with this watery body, which is suited for, which is the best suited. And watery body is there to experience the sense of taste. So perfectly experiencing the sense of taste, he recognizes and realizes, oh, okay, I'm fine. I no longer have any more desire. Then he gives up that desire to experience the taste, that is the material taste, and he gives up that body and reaches the third layer, which is the layer of fire. Then he gets a fiery body, which he could perfectly experience the sense of form. He experiences the sense of form there in the fiery body. And then he says, yes, I'm satisfied now. I no longer need. So he gives up that part of the fiery body and he gives up the desire to enjoy that material form. Hope you are able to understand the transition, dear devotees. So here we are talking about this person who has who from Satyaloka wants to go and merge into the Brahman. And for that, to merge into the Brahman, he has to go through these 8 layers, which are around this universe. And what are the 8 layers? First is earth, then there is water, then there is fire, then there is air, and then ether. These are the 5 elemental layers. After that, there is a layer of ahankar. Then there is a layer of mahatattva, and then layer of prakriti or pradhan. So these 8 layers, as I told you, what is the dimension of these earth 8 layers? They are 10 times thicker than the previous layer. Okay, that's what is the understanding that Bhagavatam gives. And then now this yogi, he's trying to cross these 8 layers before reaching what? Brahmajyoti. Now, as I told you, the first layer he comes to is the earth layer. And he gets this body that is perfect to enjoy the sense of smell, which is the earthly body he gets, and then he enjoys the smell aspect. Now he feels satisfied and he says, yes. And whenever there is a satisfaction, he gives up that part of the subtlety of the desire, and then he gets to the next layer. And the next layer is what? It is water. And the water, with that watery body, obviously it is suited for the sense of taste. He is perfectly experiencing the sense of taste. And he then says, again, he gets that satisfaction to say, yes, I am fine. I no longer have any such desire. Then he gives up that experience to taste, which is the material taste, and he gives up the body and reaches the third layer, which is the layer of fire or the fiery body. And then he perfectly experiences the sense of form in that fiery body. And then obviously there is the satisfaction that comes to him, and he gives up that body of fire and he gives up that desire to enjoy that material form. All right. Now he reaches the layer of air, he gets an airy body, and then he experiences the sense of touch perfectly. And then after some time, he recognizes, yes, I'm satiated, I'm satisfied, I no longer have this level of desire, I'm now ready to move on. So he gives up that airy body and gives up that desire to enjoy the sense of touch and moves on. Then he comes to the layer of ether. The layer of ether, which is worshipped as a form of Paramatma, Bragaratma Lingam. So there he experiences, he gets an ethereal body, and he can perfectly experiences the sense of sound, it seems. Then he says, no more desire to enjoy, I'm satiated, and then to enjoy this material sound. So he gives up that body and gives up that desire. So now his subtle body has become absolutely subtle. So if the yogi desires to stay until the life of Brahma, he could also attain liberation with Brahma if Brahmaji is qualified. If and only if Brahmaji is qualified. But if he desires to attain liberation before that, he pierces through the 7 coverings of the universe and then enters the Brahman. 7 or 8. It could, some places 7 it's mentioned, in some places 8 is mentioned. So he attains the layer of earth, which is 5 billion yojanas thick, covering the universe, measuring 5 billion yojanas in width. So the layer of earth, how does he do this? He takes the form of the earth, and the other layers are also understood in the same way. He attains the form of water with a watery body and so on and so forth. So he's devoid of any fear or suffering from burning or any other danger, right? Going into a fiery planet, is there a fear for him that he will be burnt? No, there is no damage done to the body. There is no question of fear. He attains the layer of water, which is 10 times thicker than the layer of earth with a watery body. And with that form of fire, he attains the layer of fire 10 times thicker than the water layer. Like this, dear devotees. So he attains these various forms, enjoy the sense objects of that layer. In the earth, with an earthy body, he can enjoy the sense of smell. And with water layer, the watery body, he can enjoy the sense object of taste. And sometimes with a fiery body, he can attain the layer of air 10 times thicker than the layer of fire with his airy body. Then he attains the layer of ether, which is 10 times thicker than the air layer. So the form of ether is worshipped, right? I mean, the form of Paramatma is worshipped, it seems there. So then there is another explanation that is given, or I mean, obviously, he has reached the layer of ether, and he has 3 more layers to cross, or 2 more sometimes, depending upon some places 7 it's mentioned, some places 8 is mentioned. When it's mentioned as 7, the layer of pradhan is skipped. Skipped in the sense it's not explicitly mentioned. Okay. Now, this yogi attains the sense of smell with a subtle nose. The sense of smell, he attains the sense of taste, the sense of object. He attains the sense taste, meaning with the sense object for experiencing taste, which is the tongue. He attains or experiences form, means with the subtle eye, he attains the sense of touch with the subtle skin. So like that, he experiences sound, means with a subtle ear, he's able to experience this. So one may say, oh my God, only Jnanendriyas are mentioned. What about the Karmendriyas? Right? What about the Karmendriyas? The function, I mean, it should be understood like he says he surpasses the subtle sense objects. He attains the fragrance perceived by the nose and the taste perceived by the tongue. He attains the touch and then the sound. So he attains the various actions of these senses. So these sense objects are in various layers. So in these various layers, what is there? The sense objects. Once he experiences the sense object, what he's trying to say is, I'm no longer interested with that. The smell resides on the layer of earth. In the earth layer, for instance, they are explained here, but they are attained along with various layers. So when he attains various layers, he experiences that sense of, I mean, whatever is there in that particular planet, sense objects, he's able to enjoy that sense objects perfectly, it seems, when he goes there. That particular sense object, he's able to enjoy very nicely. In the earth, very nicely, he's able to enjoy that smell aspect. And in the water, that particular sense object, he is able to perfectly enjoy, it seems. And when he goes to the next layer, the desire for the smell is gone. And when he goes into the next layer, all those desires are eventually gone. So that particular, so he's able to enjoy that particular sense object very nicely and very perfectly, which is the point which is being talked about in the 29th verse. And then in the 30th verse, there is a point on false ego. He attains the layer of false ego. False ego, we all know it has multiple meanings. The common meaning that is understood is false identification with, we identify falsely with a body, that is gross or subtle body. Generally, that is one meaning of false ego, we know. And that is the way in which we mostly use this word false ego. But he is acting like this out of false ego. Like that here it is mentioned. So false ego has another meaning. So during creation, Karanodakshaya Vishnu, I'm going to briefly mention this. This is described clearly in the 5th canto. Sorry, not 5th canto, 5th chapter of 2nd canto Bhagavatam. Karanodakshaya Vishnu glances on Prakriti or Pradhan, so it transforms to what is called Mahatattva. We are not going to talk about in detail. So further, when Karnadaksha is Vishnu, glance falls on Mahatattva transforms into the layer of false ego or Ahankar. The false ego layer provides all what is needed for this living entity to identify with. So in order to have false ego, a false identification, you need to have that object with which you can identify with. False ego means identification with the body. So without the body, how can we identify ourselves as body? Without gross body, without subtle body, how you can identify yourself as gross body or subtle body? So the false ego layer provides these things. It has three sublayers. False ego in the mode of goodness, false ego in the mode of passion, and false ego in the mode of ignorance. So the false ego layer has to provide with everything that the living entity can falsely identify with. Right? I mean, so that is why we have these three sublayers. And each senses, as we know, they are all controlled by sense devata. Eyes is controlled by Surya Dev. Nose is controlled by Ashwini Kumaras. Ears are controlled by Dik Devatas. And tongue is controlled by Varuna, the sense of speech. And the sense of speech is controlled by Agni. Like that, each and every sense is controlled by the sense Devata. There is false ego in the mode of goodness. What is it providing? It provides the material mind and the sense devata. The false ego in the mode of passion, it provides with the karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, buddhi, prana, all that. That is the manifestation of false ego in the mode of passion. Then there is mode of ignorance, tamasic ahankar. And from this, you actually get the 5 elements: earth, water, fire, air, ether, and the 5 tanmatras. So this is the layer of false ego. Now, with these manifestations, that is the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, from the manifestation of mode of ignorance, from the manifestation of mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, the subtle body is formed. So when the gross and the subtle bodies are formed in this way, the living entity is able to identify himself as a gross body or subtle body. Right? So that is the identification. That identification is called ahankar. But you wrongly identify with. You have to, if you have to wrongly identify with, you need those objects that you can identify with wrongly. That those objects are also products of what is called layer of ahankar. So this is the point, dear devotees. See, when we are able to say hand is there, physical hand may be there, but the ability to lift it is subtle. And this ability to lift comes from the strength of prana. So when your prana becomes weak, what happens? Karmendriyas also become weak. Say, for example, in Nirjal Ekadasi, you're fasting throughout and you don't have strength. Karmendriyas immediately get affected. You're not able to lift heavy things. You can't climb up the stairs. You cannot do it because the prana vayu has become weak. Because prana is in anna. You're not eating anna. You don't take anna, prana becomes weak. When the prana becomes weak, the first affected personalities are the karmendriyas because they are heavily dependent on prana. You will not be able to lift things on a Nirjal Ekadasi. You will not be able to walk and move around really nicely like this. Even though you have a gross hand is there, gross leg is there. But the ability to lift, ability to walk, all this is subtle and it's connected to the prana. So whenever Indriyas are told in Bhagavatam, Indriyas generally refer to the subtle body, not the gross body. It's the subtle body, not the gross body. Even though you have the gross hands, visible hands, they are always gross, but the ability to lift is subtle. So now the gross and the subtle body is provided by what? The layer of false ego. And further, that misidentification with the gross and the subtle layer is called false ego. So, therefore, many times when Bhagavatam talks about a living entity passing through the layer of false ego, it does not literally refer to misidentification. It refers to the layer from which the jiva has received the gross and subtle things with which he could identify with. So, all this is provided to this jiva by the layer of false ego. So, when the jiva attains the layer of false ego, in which the sense objects, the senses, the mind, the sense devatas are merged into the gunas of tamas, rajas, and sattva. See, we understand this jiva, he is trying to enjoy separately from Krishna, and therefore he has received this material mind, the sense devatas, from the mode of goodness layer. He received the karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, buddhi, prana from the mode of passion layer. He received the 5 elements and the tanmatras from the mode of ignorance layer. Now he is fully equipped with his gross body and subtle body that he can try to enjoy separately from Krishna. But now that he has completely lost this conviction to enjoy, he wants to attain liberation. We are talking about this yogi, dear devotees. He reaches this layer of false ego to say that I am now completely satisfied. I am ready to move on. You take everything back. Oh, mode of goodness, you know what you have to do? You have to take my material mind. I don't need it anymore. Oh, sense devatas, they don't need to assist me in material enjoyment. Oh, mode of passion, please take away the karmendriyas. Please take away the jnanendriyas. Please take away the buddhi, the prana. I don't need any sort of material enjoyment. Oh, mode of ignorance layer. These 5 elements which constitute my gross body, please take them back. I don't need any sort of material enjoyment from them anymore. So in this way, he merges everything into the false ego, then into the Mahat Tattva. This is merging the false ego into the Mahat Tattva. So because this false ego is the product of Mahat Tattva and transformation of Mahat Tattva. So he merges this false ego layer and then merges into Mahat Tattva. He merges this Mahat Tattva into Pradhan, it seems, in which the gunas have stopped functioning. So then he merges the Mahatattva layer into the layer of Pradhan, which means essentially he's telling, I don't need anything in terms of enjoyment. I'm going back. My job is done. I'm going back home. I've suffered enough. I'm now going back to my place. So here, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakura has described, he's surpassing the gross and the subtle elements. And Sukadev Goswami explains how this yogi attains the layer of false ego and then the layer of Mahatattva, and then the false ego is merged, the senses and the sense objects as well as the elements are merged into the false ego of tamas, the senses are merged into the false ego of rajas. Like that, these 5 elements, the tanmatras, are merged into the false ego of tamas. The karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, buddhi and prana, they are merged into the false ego of rajas, and the material mind and the sense devatas are merged into the mode of false ego in the mode of goodness. Like that, then along with the false ego which remains, he goes to the layer of Mahatattva. He merges this false ego completely into the Mahatattva. Then he merges this Mahatattva into Pradhan, in which he could, so that obviously, we want to understand that if Pradhan is considered the 8th layer instead of the 7th, then that is where he merges this Mahatattva into Pradhan. If the 8th layer is not separately mentioned, then we have to stop with Mahatattva. Okay, so this is the footnote that is given by Banuswami Maharaj to help us understand. Okay, depending upon whether it's 8 or 7, we would have that particular thing, whether it's Mahatattva or Pradhan. So accordingly, we should understand the context. So with this, he just completes the 8 layers, and then now point is this yogi has to get into Brahmajyoti after this. After going through this 7 or 8 coverings, he gets into the layer of Brahmajyoti. So this is where the verse stops. Obviously, 31st verse has so much going on there. What we can do is we can take it up in our next session when we meet and go through starting from 31st till whatever I am supposed to cover for next week. So this way we will have a continuity because there's so much going on, dear devotees, in terms of technicalities. Again, I'm not an expert. I'm trying to just present it as it is. Because we don't have any kind of experience to this yogic process, it's kind of difficult. But again, as we understand, the sequence is clear. So he's trying to have some subtleties and subtle enjoyments which he's trying to get rid of at each layer. And when he becomes or goes into the next layer, he gets purer, which is the point I think we need to understand and And then see how intricate this process is and how complex it is, so we could avoid this uh, tough path of getting liberated, and obviously follow the path of bhakti, where there is pleasure in serving the Lord. The Lord Himself will take care of our material desires. We don't have to put an artificial effort to say, oh, I want to be detached from this. No, it will automatically happen with bhakti. So, which is why bhakti is very special for all the devotees. And they don't want to, when they hear this word liberation, they are not at all satisfied. They really, they don't value this much. Anyways, dear devotees, we will stop here, and we will have some question and answer discussions if there are any. Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripasantubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our Acharyas and Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you so much. I open this session for question and answers.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you, Mataji. It's really, really very technical, and I don't know where you got all this knowledge to explain so nicely. So I have a few questions, Mataji. What does a yogi really need to go to Satyaloka to merge into the Brahman?
Yes, so it depends upon, I think, the yogi's desire, Mataji. So if he wants to enjoy that facility, whatever desires he has, the secondary abhilashas is what determines which planet he will go to. He can skip planets if he doesn't have desire to go there. But again, it depends upon the yogi, I believe, whether he has that desire to enjoy the facilities the Brahmaloka has to offer. So this because this Krama Mukti is gradual liberation. And why they are having this gradual liberation process is that they have secondary desires which they want to address. And depends upon the yogi. The secondary desires the yogi has, he will go to a planet.
Mataji, my question is, if he does any yogi need to go to Satyaloka to merge into the Brahman? If they don't go to Satyaloka, is there from anywhere that they merge into the Brahman?
So the point is, Mataji, they don't go directly into Brahman from Satyaloka, right? They have to go through these 8 coverings. And when they give up the subtleties on the 8 layers, then they go and merge into Brahman. So this is the path of a Krama Mukta. With direct Mukti, you don't have to go to Brahmaloka. Okay. You directly attain liberation. Yeah, that is what is the difference. With the direct Mukti, you don't need to go. That person who's Paramatma meditating yogi, he doesn't have to go through these. Yeah.
So you're discussing about different kind of yogis here. Now, my other question is, Mataji, so when there is annihilation, Satyaloka also gets annihilated, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, there is, in the partial annihilation, that doesn't happen. But at the end of Brahmaji's life, the entire devastation happens. At that time, Satyaloka also is gone.
Okay. So when only when Brahma dies, then his loka also is annihilated.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
In the partial annihilation, only the till the Swarga it gets affected. So the upper planetary system people, they just have the feeling of a smoke. So now all the people in the Swarga, if they want, they can go to the upper planetary system during that time of partial pralaya.
So all of them stay in Satyaloka, not annihilated.
No,
right?
if they are affected by smoke, they can go up to Satyaloka and be there.
Okay.
Otherwise, these people in Swarga, they'll go to Makarloka, Tapaloka, depending upon the intensity of fire, because it comes from the Ananta Sesh mouth. Depending upon the intensity of the fire, they want to go to different upper planetary systems.
Okay. So Mataji, also, I missed that the ahankara I've got the old what you said, like first is earth with what the sense, we get the sense smells, and then it goes up. I've missed the Mahatattva and the Prakriti, those two. So what happens there?
It's
Because
just the merging.
the ahankara, it provides a passion, goodness, and ignorance. So what does the Mahatattva provide, please?
So the Mahatattva, in the layer of Mahatattva is, so they call it as, in the layer of Mahatattva is the pure Chitta, it seems, Mataji. I also have to understand it when we go into the 5th chapter, 2nd canto, 5th chapter, what this Mahatattva layer is. But eventually, when you are, see, when the agitation happens, that is when the modes come into play. But in the layer of Mahatattva, it is pure Chitta, it seems. That's what I understand. And how and what intricacies that has, we will learn in the 5th chapter, Mataji. We will go there and learn Vishnu Chakravarti Thakura's
What is the
purports
meaning,
and
Mataji? What is the meaning of pure Chitta? Our
so pure. So the thing is, they are not affected by modes at that stage. When their pradhan is, time and Jiva Shakti and Kala Shakti enters into the pradhan, then they are agitated because of the modes.
Okay. And
Yeah.
so that is Mahatattva, right? So what happens when they reach Prakriti?
So again, you understand the sequence now, Mataji. From Prakriti, Mahatattva to Ahankar. What happens? This yogi does this, he merges everything there because he says, I don't need this, I don't, everything then comes. If the reverse is happening here, if you are looking at the process of creation from Prakriti to Mahatattva to Ahankar, then the 5 elemental layers, this is what happens in a jiva's creation. But now everything is dissolved or given back. The reverse is happening.
Yeah. So what does Prakriti provide?
So, Mataji, we will talk about it in 5th canto. I don't want to say anything. I will go through the commentaries and give you exact explanation of what each.
Thank you.
Definitely, we will go through that exercise. I want to understand it clearly. See, what I'm doing is also with you. I am learning as we are doing this exercise. I'm trying to get in deep understanding Srila Prabhupada's purports, our Acharya's purports, and giving you what I can. So give me some time. If you ask me questions in different chapters, it may not be. I mean, I can just say layman's term, but I want to get into deep to what this meaning is and then communicate with you. So hope it's okay.
I'm also trying to understand, because the way you speak is very clear. I understand it. So I need to get the grip of it, right? That's why I'm asking. But very nice, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji, for your wonderful questions. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
I'll go and read this. Is 2.2.5, right?
Yes, 2.2.5 is what we need to go through, Mataji. That is what creation is all about, where we will have to go through these. 2.5 is a very, very important chapter. I will make sure, to give you all clarity at that time. Very, very clearly.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
But you can start reading that chapter now itself.
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Sure. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna. Yes, go ahead, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Lakshmi Mataji.
Able to hear me?
Yes, it's breaking, but we can hear you.
Mataji. Oh, okay. A wonderful session, Mataji, and lots of detail, actually. I could take only few notes, so I have to hear the session again. So I kindly request Ari Govind Prabhu to post the videos so that we will, because it's not just once. I think I'm not in that level, so I need to hear again and again to capture the points, whatever Mataji said here. And you said for ether, right, Mataji? So ether is, they worship as Paramatma, right? You mentioned that point, right, Mataji? So in that couple of questions, so one is for ether, you said one sense of, what is that sense for that, Mataji?
Sound.
Sense of that for
Sound.
a sound?
Sound.
Okay, Mataji. And if it is, if they are meditating, the second question is, if they are meditating on Paramatma, so they should directly liberate now, at least, right, Mataji? But still they are
The
going
thing
through
is,
Mahatattva and all
yes,
those.
even a Paramatma meditating yogi at this stage, if he has secondary desires, then he has to work on that secondary desires and then go. This person is fairly advanced now. He's, he's entering these 8 layers. That itself means, and then ready to give up the subtleties of the 8 layers. That itself means he's a very, very advanced yogi. And once he is able to completely give up all the desires, that's when he will be able to go into Brahmajyoti by meditating on the Paramatma form of the Lord.
Okay, okay, Mataji. And thank you so much, Mataji, for bringing all this together. It's really giving a wonderful overview of what a yogi does
Yeah.
and how we are benefited. And
Yeah.
especially the yogi kind, when you mentioned that they have the material desires. So I thought that yogi will not have material desires, but it means that actually yogi doesn't have earthly desires, but they have other material desires. They
Gross,
want to
no
go to
gross
different
desires,
planet and they
subtle
want to
desires. Yeah,
subtle
no
desires they
gross
have.
desires,
Okay.
subtle desires are there. Very, very subtle desires. Again, we are not going into what level of that subtle desires they have. That is not what Bhagavatam is telling us, giving information. Oh, he has the desire. Even when it comes to sense of smell, what is that he want? I mean, all that is not at all explained, Mataji. It's very, very high level. If we are not here to practice yoga, so Bhagavatam doesn't give us so many details, but a very high level detail of what this yogi aspires for. That much only
Very
we
true,
can
Mataji. Because before coming here, I have attended a session in Isha Yoga as well as in Raja Yoga. So I can relate to whatever they say, but they are also true on one sense, but they have subtle desires, but they don't explicitly tell that outside. But our process is ultimate, Mataji. Wonderful. And thank you so much for all the mercies
Mhm.
of all the devotees who is
Yeah,
bringing the ultimate
our
high
process,
perfection.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very clear. Even in Shishtastakam, he made it clear. Everywhere he's made it clear, it's only pure devotion. There's no, this Uttama Bhakti definition is Anya Abhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karmati Anavritam Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam Bhakti Uttama. If we understand that particular verse, our life is set for Bhakti Yoga. Because this Bhakti Yoga, whom we are talking about, he has no other aspiration. He performs 24/7 devotion. This is what is a Uttama Bhakta. He has no other desire other than devotion to Lord. That's all. This guy is Uttama Bhakta. No, that is what we are striving for. We are not there yet. We are into karma, we are into so many things this material world has to offer. The time when we get the mercy of a pure devotee, that is when we will enter into the path of pure devotion. Now we have not entered. We have to be very clear on that. I want to enter, we can aspire, but we have not entered yet. That criteria of Anyabhilashita Shunyam has to be satisfied. The 4 points, that 4 lines that this verse is talking about has to be satisfied so we can enter into pure devotion. We are all aspiring for pure devotion and not got into pure devotion. That point we have to be very, very clear. Otherwise, there is no question of improvement in us.
Very true, Mataji, because we are living with many other people as well, right? So whenever
Yes.
they ask like why you are in this, why you are not doing that meditation and all those, we can answer to somewhat to some level. But all these sessions actually gives a very great determination that we are in the right path. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you so much.
Prabhuji, we went over time. I'm really
No, no,
sorry. I know.
no, no,
You
no,
have
no,
been very,
Mataji.
very patient. You've been one of the beautiful hosts that we always have.
No, no,
I
no.
don't know, it's good or
You have been,
I'm
you
taking
have
your
blessed me.
time and it's already
No, no, no,
late in Kenya.
no, no, no. It's 9:15 only.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mataji. We are blessed to have your association, Hare Krishna.
Hare
So
Krishna,
I
Prabhuji.
request Indulekha Mataji, is it possible for you to end the session, Hare Krishna?
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji. So I will request Mataji to come again and with his broad knowledge to please enlighten us again. Very nice. We got so much to know about all these layers that we got from when we are in different like we on the earth, what we got, like from ether, what we get, and from water, fire, what we got. All these things so nicely explained. So I will request Mataji to please come back again, and we pray to Lord Krishna to give her more knowledge so that she can share with us. This is the beauty of associating with devotees. Whereas, these yogis, they may not get this opportunity. If they had this opportunity for the pure bhakti, pure devotional service on the Lord, they wouldn't have to go to through all these layers, through all these planetary systems, unless they desire it. So for us, we should not desire anything except for the devotional service of the Lord. So I will request everyone to please unmute and let's say Hare Krishna to Mataji to thank her. So please unmute everyone. And you say Hare Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna, Krishna
Hare
Krishna,
Hare,
Hare Hare,
Hare
Hare
Rama, Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama, Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Hare.
Vancha
Kalpatarubhyascha kripa
Kripa
sindhubhya
sindhu
cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo
Namo
namaha.
Namaha. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Ananta
Jai.
Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Srila
Jai.
Prabhupada ki jai. Her
Jai.
Grace Radhika Kasturi Mataji ki
All
jai.
glories to
Hare
the assembled
Krishna.
devotees. All glories to Srila
Thank you,
Prabhupada
thank
Guru
you.
Maharaj. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna.
See you all next
Thank
week.
you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.